The conference room lights were still flickering overhead when I saw the email pop up on my phone. Subject: Feedback Review, Reconsideration of Promotion Status. I hadn't even sat down yet. Carla was already there, sipping her green juice like she owned the oxygen in the room. Her laptop was open, her screen turned just slightly toward Mr. Delaney, our team lead, who barely acknowledged my presence with a nod. The moment I clicked the email, my heart started pounding. After reviewing internal collaboration data and cross-departmental feedback, your promotion is on hold. Please schedule a follow-up meeting after Q2. What? I blinked. My thumb hovered over the screen like it had frozen. I had just come off 2 back-to-back 80-hour weeks, cleaning up the HR compliance audit Carla had botched. She knew it. Delaney knew it. I had the Slack logs, the time-stamped revisions, the entire shared drive trail. But somehow, she had turned the story again. Carla looked up, smile thin, smile. Tough timing, huh? But maybe next cycle. My voice caught in my throat. Not here. Not now. Instead, I smiled back, a move I'd perfected as a woman in this office who'd learned that facts weren't as powerful as whispers. I sank into the chair across from them, opened my notebook, and forced myself to listen as they moved on to planning the holiday brunch. No one mentioned that I had organized it last year. That evening, I stood by the kitchen sink watching my daughter Zoe carefully wrap a small gift box in sparkly red paper. She was humming Jingle Bell Rock under her breath, the tip of her tongue poking out in concentration as she glued a glittery letter G onto the lid. For Grandma, she said softly. I turned off the faucet. You did all that yourself? She nodded. I painted the box in art class. It's for brunch tomorrow. I want her to like it this year. My stomach twisted. Zoe had always been generous. She never questioned why her cousins got shiny new iPads, and she got plastic bracelets or bath salts. She never asked why her name was missing from the family group chat, or why she wasn't included in the matching Christmas pajama photos that Lorraine sent out each year. She just kept showing up, hoping. She'll love it, I said, forcing a smile. But Zoe caught the edge in my voice. She was only 7, but she saw things. Mom, she asked, clutching the box, do you think Grandma even remembers that I'm part of the family? I swallowed. Behind her, the lights on the tree blinked too brightly. I knelt down beside her and tucked a curl behind her ear. I think she needs a reminder. Just then, Travis walked in, carrying the grocery bags. He paused, catching the tension in the room. His eyes darted between Zoe's gift and my face. He didn't say anything, just set the bags down and busied himself with the refrigerator. But I recognized that silence. Later that night, as I was folding laundry, Travis sat beside me on the couch, his voice low. You remember the box? I turned to him. The one you gave Zoe months ago? He nodded. It's still in her closet. She hasn't opened it. She brought it out earlier, I said. Didn't say anything, just held it for a long time. Travis stared ahead. I told her to give it to my mother if she ever felt like she didn't belong again. You really think she will? He hesitated. She's the one who decides. I didn't want her to feel powerless. A flicker of something moved across his face. Regret, maybe, or guilt. The years of letting his mother sideline his daughter, of choosing quiet over confrontation. But tonight, something had changed. Zoe had decided. And that terrified me more than any outburst ever could. The next morning, Zoe woke up early and asked if she could wear her gold dress again. The same one she wore last Christmas when Lorraine had handed out envelopes stuffed with cash to all the cousins, except her. She didn't even say hi last time, Zoe had whispered in the car. Today she didn't say anything. She just got dressed with a quiet kind of determination. Travis watched her from the doorway as she added the final touch, a headband with a glittering snowflake. You look ready, he said. Zoe nodded. I want to give her both boxes. Both? I asked. She held up the red one from last night and the painted one from art class. One's mine, one's from Dad. My throat tightened. We arrived at Lorraine's just before brunch. The house was perfect, like a catalog exploded in gold. Matching place settings, cinnamon candles, professional catering trays. Lorraine swept into the room in a red cashmere sweater, greeting everyone with theatrical hugs and exaggerated praise. "Oh, Maddie, look at that dress! Connor, you've grown a foot!" Then her eyes landed on Zoe. "Hi, sweetie. You look festive," she said flatly. No hug, no mention of Zoe's carefully chosen gift, just a perfunctory smile and a glance toward the kitchen. Zoe's smile faltered, but she didn't retreat. She walked over and placed her art box on the counter. "Made this for you," she said. Lorraine looked at it as if it were a napkin. "That's very thoughtful." She turned back to pouring mimosas. I felt Travis tense beside me, his jaw clenched, hands fisted. And Zoe? She just sat quietly, box still in hand. After brunch, Lorraine began her annual gift ritual. She sat in the center of the room, passing out packages one by one, announcing names like royalty. "Connor," she beamed, handing over a drone set. "Maddie," she said, giving her a bracelet box and an envelope. Then she paused, looking at the last bag on the side table. "This is for you, Zoe. Just a little something. Didn't want you to feel completely left out." Zoe stood, walked over, and took the bag. Inside, a single lavender candle in a plain glass jar. The tag read, "To Travis's girl." Zoe sat down without saying a word. Her fingers didn't curl around the glass. They just let it sit on her lap like a rock. In the kitchen, as dishes clattered and laughter swirled, I turned to Travis. "She called her Travis's girl," I whispered, "not even her name." He didn't blink, just said, "She remembers the box." "She brought it?" He nodded. "It's in her coat pocket." I exhaled. "And if she gives it to your mother?" His voice was steady. "Then my mother finally hears from both of us." If you've ever been overlooked after giving your all, at work, at home, anywhere, type 1, because staying silent is not the same as being weak. As we left the kitchen, Zoe slipped her hand into her coat. Her fingers brushed the red box. She looked up at me and whispered, "Tomorrow's going to be loud, isn't it?" I nodded slowly. "Yes, baby, and finally, they're going to hear you." The moment I stepped into the break room, I knew something was wrong. Everyone fell silent. Carla was leaning over Mr. Delaney's laptop with her signature smirk, the kind that made your skin itch. My name was on the screen, not in a calendar invite or email thread, on an incident report. My breath caught. "What's this?" I asked. Delaney turned the screen slightly toward me, casual, like he was showing off a new feature. "Claire, we received a submission that you failed to log the time-stamped audit trail for the Q3 compliance updates." I stared at him. "I created the trail. I exported every step from SharePoint myself." Carla chimed in. "Well, we only have your word on that. There's no saved copy in the shared folder." I nearly laughed. "That's because you archived the folder, Carla. I saw the admin log. You removed it 2 days ago." Delaney raised an eyebrow. "Are you accusing a colleague of manipulating internal records?" I opened my mouth to speak, but stopped. This wasn't a discussion. This was a performance. I was the villain in a story they'd already written, and right now, in this room, the script had no lines for me. Back at home, the smell of cinnamon and ham drifted through Lorraine's kitchen. Everything looked the same wreath, the same spotless counters, the same air of curated perfection. But this year, I didn't feel like a guest. I felt like an outsider with a loaded weapon, and that weapon was the truth, waiting in my daughter's pocket. Zoe clutched the painted gift box in one hand and the red one in the other. "Do I give them together?" she asked. Travis crouched beside her, voice steady. "You'll know when it's time." The living room was already full, cousins, uncles, neighbors with wine glasses and paper napkins. Lorraine floated from person to person like a hostess from a 1950s magazine ad. "Oh, Maddie, that dress! Did Grandma pick that out for you?" "Yes," Maddie beamed. "And she gave me a necklace, too." Across the room, Zoe sat on the edge of the couch, her sparkly gold dress too stiff for comfort, her glitter headband slipping slightly. She watched Maddie unwrap her gifts with quiet grace, a silver bracelet, a charm necklace, an envelope that made Maddie's eyes widen. "Grandma, really?" she squealed. "Of course, sweetheart, don't open it yet." Lorraine winked. Then came the shift. Lorraine picked up a small bag, plain, unmarked, and held it up like it was an afterthought. This one's for you, Zoe. Just a little something. Didn't want you to feel completely left out. Zoe stood up, silent. She walked across the room, took the bag from Lorraine, and returned to her seat. No clapping. No fanfare. Inside was a lavender-scented candle. No note, no card, just a plain candle and a tiny tag that read, "To Travis's girl." I froze. Not Zoe, not even sweetheart, just a casual label, a distancing line. I turned to Travis. His face was unreadable, but his fingers were laced tightly in his lap, knuckles pale. Zoe looked down at the candle, then up at me. She didn't cry, but something inside her folded. She set the candle aside and reached for the red box. In the kitchen, I found Travis refilling his glass. "She did it again," I whispered. "The name on the tag." He didn't even flinch. "I know." "You have to say something." He turned to me, eyes tired but resolute. "I already did." I stared at him. He added, "I said it in the letter." I exhaled slowly. "And if Zoe gives it to her? Then she reads it and knows we're done pretending?" I leaned against the counter. "You're really ready for this to end?" Travis didn't hesitate. "If she can't love our daughter, she doesn't love us." That night, Zoe sat on the carpet, legs folded beneath her, candle on one side, red box on the other. "Can I give it to her at dessert?" she asked. "You can give it to her whenever you're ready," I said. "You decide the moment." She nodded. "I want everyone to be there." My breath caught. "Are you sure?" "Yes," she said, "because I don't want to do this again next year." The next day, I sat at my desk at work staring at the archived compliance folder I had quietly restored. The metadata logs were intact. They showed Carla's admin activity, date, time, and deletion path. Every click, every move. I stared at the printout. My fingers shook. In the background, I heard Mr. Delaney laughing with Carla outside his office. I folded the sheet and slid it into a plain white envelope. Not yet, I thought, but soon. Back at Lorraine's, dessert was in full swing. Laughter, sparkling cider, clinks of forks on plates. Zoe stood up, her dress shimmering under the chandelier. She walked to the head of the table. "Grandma," she said clearly, holding the red box with both hands, "Dad told me to give this to you if you ever ignored me again." The room went silent. Lorraine blinked. "What is this, sweetheart?" Zoe didn't answer. She placed the box in front of Lorraine and returned to her seat. I reached under the table for Travis's hand. He took it. His grip was firm, his jaw locked. Lorraine turned the box in her hands like it might be a joke. She laughed weakly. "Is this a craft?" No one responded. She peeled off the red wrapping paper. Slowly. The smile faded from her face. Inside was a photo. Travis holding Zoe, cake smeared on her cheeks, her arms around his neck. The day of the adoption celebration. The caption read, "Day 1 Dad." Below it, a sealed envelope. She opened it. Her fingers trembled. "If you've ever been pushed aside, handed less, or called something that erased who you really are, type 2. Your name matters. Your place matters. You matter." Lorraine's mouth opened as she read the letter, but no words came out. Her face drained of color, and from across the table, Zoe whispered softly, not to her grandmother, but to herself, "She finally sees me." The security badge turned red. I tried again. Red. Again. Red. I glanced over my shoulder at the receptionist. She gave me a tight-lipped smile, then picked up the phone. "Claire Reynolds is at the main entrance," she said quietly. "Her access isn't working." "Not Ms. Reynolds. Not Compliance Officer Reynolds. Just my name, like it belonged to someone no longer on the payroll." I stood still, phone in hand, heart pounding. Seconds later, my manager's assistant appeared from behind the glass doors. "Hi, Claire. Mr. Delaney's asked to speak with you in HR directly." She didn't offer me a badge. She didn't open the door. She didn't smile. And that's when I knew. The envelope in my bag, containing the audit logs, Carla's timestamps, and the exact moment she deleted the compliance folder, was no longer just a piece of paper. It was insurance. Back in Lorraine's living room, Zoe's red box sat on the table like a landmine no one wanted to touch. The silence was almost absurd. Even the fireplace crackled more cautiously. Lorraine finally unfolded the letter. Her lips moved soundlessly as she read Travis's handwriting, line by line. The color drained from her face. Travis didn't flinch. I saw his jaw tighten, but his eyes didn't leave his mother once. Zoe sat perfectly still next to me, candle in her lap, her hands resting on her knees like she'd practiced this moment in her head 1,000 times. Lorraine dropped the letter like it had burned her fingers. "Is this—" she began, her voice barely audible. "You gave her permission to humiliate me?" "No," Travis said calmly. "I gave her permission to speak." Lorraine's face twisted. "I've never been anything but kind to that girl." Zoe looked up. "You never said my name." That silenced the room more than anything else. Even Maddie stopped chewing her cookie. "I can't believe you'd let her do this," Lorraine snapped, now aiming her voice at me. "You turned him against his own family." I stood slowly. My pulse roared in my ears, but my words came steady. "You excluded my daughter for 7 years. You smiled through it, dressed it up with scented candles and thin compliments. But Zoe? She finally saw through you, and she chose to be heard." Lorraine looked around the table, searching for allies. None came. Not from her sister-in-law, not from Travis's cousin. Even Pamela, her own daughter, looked away. "You're embarrassing this family," Lorraine hissed. "No," Travis said. "You did that all by yourself." She pointed a trembling finger at me. "You manipulated him. You filled his head with this savior complex." I took a step forward, keeping my voice low. "Lorraine, my daughter gave you a chance, a gift, a moment to rise, and you chose to bury it with pride." Zoe stood then. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply said, "I belong here, whether you like it or not." And that's when Lorraine screamed. Not a sob, not a shout, a scream, sharp and raw, like something inside her snapped. She shoved the chair back, knocking it into the buffet table. Dishes rattled. People jumped. "I will not be disrespected in my own home." Travis rose. "We're leaving." In the car, Zoe buckled her seatbelt without a word. Her hands were folded neatly in her lap. "Did she read the whole letter?" she asked quietly. Travis looked at her in the rearview mirror. Every single word. Zoe smiled, just enough to show something had settled. Not because Lorraine had changed, but because she no longer needed her to. Later that evening, as I was reviewing the HR access logs on my personal laptop, I saw it. A second attempt to delete the audit backup. Carla wasn't just careless, she was deliberate. And Delaney? His credentials had approved the deletion. For weeks, I had told myself not to escalate, that I was lucky to even have the job, that exposing them might backfire. But Zoe had looked a woman in the face and said, "I belong here." So maybe I could look 2 corrupt managers in the eye and say, "You don't." 3 days later, a padded envelope arrived in the mail, addressed to Zoe. I checked the return label. Maddie. Zoe opened it on the couch, legs swinging off the side. Inside was a silver bracelet with a heart charm, and a handwritten note. "I'm sorry Grandma was mean. You're my cousin forever. I picked this with my allowance." Zoe ran her fingers over the charm. She didn't ask if she could wear it. She just slipped it on and smiled. That bracelet did more for her than 1,000 perfect holiday tables ever could. If someone ever made you feel small in a room where you were supposed to belong, type 3. Because your place at the table is not up for negotiation. That night, Travis tucked Zoe into bed. I stood at the doorway, watching him lean close and whisper something. She nodded, smiling as she pulled the blanket to her chin. Then Travis walked into the kitchen, where I sat with a folder in front of me. "I'm ready," I said. He looked down at the envelope labeled HR Legal, Private. "You sure you want to do this?" I slid the envelope across the table. She chose to speak. Now it's my turn. The HR manager didn't even look me in the eye. "Please have a seat, Claire." The blinds were half drawn, casting striped shadows across the sterile beige carpet. Carla was already sitting across from me, legs crossed, fake concern painted on her face like it came straight from the employee handbook. Mr. Delaney stood in the corner by the whiteboard, arms folded, silent. I kept the envelope in my lap. Claire, the HR manager began, voice soft but rehearsed. There have been some concerns raised regarding your access to internal compliance files. Specifically, I cut her off. Specifically the Q3 audit trail that Carla deleted? Carla flinched, just slightly. Excuse me, she said sweetly. I think we're here to discuss your behavior, not make accusations. I opened the envelope and slid the contents across the table. Printouts, logs, admin activity, Slack timestamps, and one particular screenshot. Carla's own message in the private team chat instructing another staffer to clear out the revision history before Claire sees it. I didn't come to argue, I said. I came with facts. Delaney took a step forward. Claire, this feels retaliatory. No, I said, this is retaliatory. I pointed to the audit log stamped with his admin credentials. You authorized the folder deletion, on a Sunday, from your home IP address. The silence stretched like pulled thread. 3 days later, a company-wide email was sent out. Effective immediately, Claire Reynolds has been cleared of all claims related to Q3 audit trail inconsistencies. A third-party review has confirmed procedural misconduct by members of the compliance department. Carla resigned the next morning. Delaney took a leave of absence. And I, after 5 years of showing up early, staying late, and being passed over, was finally promoted. Not because someone gave me a seat, because I claimed it. At home, Zoe was helping Travis make cinnamon pancakes in her sparkly apron. She spun in the middle of the kitchen and said, "Today smells like Christmas." Travis laughed. "It's only Saturday." She grinned. "But it feels like Christmas." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, watching her move, loose, unburdened. For the first time in years, she wasn't glancing around for approval. She wasn't flinching at being forgotten. She was fully here. We didn't speak about Lorraine again. Not once. No follow-up call, no apology, no sudden repentance, just silence. And it was glorious. That weekend, we started our own traditions. We built a pillow fort in the living room and projected a movie onto the wall. Zoe picked the snacks, grapes and peanut butter pretzels, and insisted on doing cheers with her juice cup. When the credits rolled, she looked up at me. Did I do something wrong? Is that why she didn't like me? My heart shattered all over again, but this time I didn't flinch. "No, baby," I said. "You were perfect. She just didn't know how to see you." Zoe nodded. "Well, now she does." Later that night, I stood outside Zoe's bedroom door. Inside, Travis sat on the edge of her bed, watching her sleep like she was made of glass and starlight. He turned to me, eyes tired but full. "I should have stood up sooner," he whispered. I shook my head. "You stood up when it mattered." He looked down at the bracelet Maddie had sent, the silver heart charm glinting on Zoe's nightstand. "That one thing," he said, "meant more to her than anything my mom ever gave." "Because it wasn't about approval," I said. "It was about being chosen." The following Monday, I found myself back in that same HR office. Only this time, I was the one doing the talking. "Going forward," I said to the new interim director, "I'd like to recommend a rotating review panel for all promotion files, no single manager discretion, and all timestamp archives should be dual verified." She nodded. "Agreed. What you exposed, it's going to change a lot." "I didn't do it to make waves," I said. She smiled. "You didn't, but you made room." 2 weeks later, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a picture frame, the photo from the red box. Only this time, it had been reprinted on canvas. No note, no explanation. Just a single word engraved in silver beneath it. Enough. I didn't need a signature. I knew it was from Lorraine. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't forgiveness. It was something closer to surrender. I placed the canvas in Zoe's room next to her art shelf. She didn't ask where it came from. She just smiled and said, "It looks better here." If you've ever had to prove your worth just to be seen, type 4. Because worth isn't earned through someone else's validation. It's already yours. Weeks passed. Life settled. One rainy afternoon, I opened Zoe's closet to pull out old boots. I found the red box tucked neatly behind her raincoat. I opened it. The framed photo was gone, but in its place, she had placed a drawing, a crayon sketch of our family, me, Travis, Zoe, under a banner that read, "We see each other." At the bottom corner was a tiny fourth figure, a girl, alone, crossed out. And beneath that, in bold glitter pen, Zoe had written, "That's not me anymore."